Trump reiterates his intention to send troops to San Francisco. Such a move could deepen the standoff between the president and California leaders, reigniting long-standing tensions over governance, ideology, and control. In a Sunday morning appearance on Fox News' Sunday Morning Futures, President Donald J. Trump doubled down on his stated intention to deploy federal troops to San Francisco, a move that, if realized, would mark one of the most dramatic federal interventions in a U.S. city in decades. "We're going to go to San Francisco. The difference is I think they want us in San Francisco," Mr. Trump told host Maria Bartiromo, speaking from the Roosevelt Room in the West Wing. His tone was at once defiant and confident, reflecting his view that the city, long a liberal bastion and symbol of progressive governance, had gone wrong and needed federal help to restore greatness. San Francisco was truly one of the great cities of the world. And then 15 years ago it went wrong, it went woke, he said, repeating a familiar refrain from his rallies. "We're going to make it great again." Mr. Trump's remarks come amid his renewed campaign to frame America's major Democratic-led cities as crime-infested and out of control, rhetoric that plays powerfully with his political base but often clashes with data showing declining crime rates in many urban areas. The president's words on Sunday were the clearest indication yet that he intends to act on an idea he first floated last week, sending federal troops, likely members of the National Guard or Homeland Security units, into San Francisco. A long-standing flashpoint. Tensions between Mr. Trump and California officials have been a hallmark of his political career. From his disputes over wildfire management, homelessness policy, and immigration enforcement to his public clashes with Governor Gavin Newsom and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, California has served as both a political foil and a stage for the president's broader ideological battles. The notion of deploying troops to San Francisco, a city that has repeatedly defied federal authority on issues from sanctuary policies to climate regulation, is not merely about crime or public safety. It symbolizes, to both supporters and critics, the deep cultural and political rift between Trump's vision of law and order America and California's progressive ethos. Administration officials have not confirmed any formal mobilization orders, and Pentagon sources speaking on condition of anonymity said no directives have been issued. Still, Trump's repeated mention of San Francisco has stirred speculation that he could invoke the Insurrection Act, a rarely used law that allows a president to deploy the military domestically without a governor's consent. Mixed messages and local resistance. In California, the response was swift and scathing. Governor Newsom, who has long sparred with Mr. Trump, took to X, formerly Twitter, to mock the president's nostalgic tone about the city's past. Trump, "San Francisco was a great city 15 years ago. Me, why, thank you." Newsom wrote, attaching a video clip of Trump praising the city in the same interview. Mayor Daniel Lurie of San Francisco, who has sought to keep his administration focused on pragmatic governance rather than political theatrics, struck a more measured tone. Speaking at a Friday press conference flanked by police and community leaders, Mr. Lurie pointed to falling crime statistics as evidence that San Francisco's recovery is real, not rhetorical. "This united front of public safety leaders and city leaders behind me is keeping San Francisco safe every day," the mayor said. "That is my number one job as mayor, and this team right here is getting it done." According to city data, violent crime in San Francisco has declined more than 10% compared with last year, and homicides are at a 50-year low. Lurie highlighted the success of community policing efforts and coordinated initiatives targeting property crime, retail theft, and open-air drug markets, issues that have dominated media portrayals of the city in recent years. He also referenced the conclusion of the Dreamforce Technology Conference, which drew nearly 50,000 attendees to the downtown area and ended without a single major public safety incident. The Benioff controversy. One of the more surprising turns in the debate came from Mark Benioff, the billionaire founder of Salesforce and one of San Francisco's most visible civic boosters. In an interview with the New York Times last week, Benioff appeared to endorse the idea of bringing in National Guard troops to help maintain order during major events. "We don't have enough cops, so if they can be cops, I'm all for it," he said, prompting outrage from city officials who saw his comment as tone-deaf and damaging. Within days, Benioff issued an apology, saying his remarks were misinterpreted and that he no longer believed troops were necessary. "I love this city," Benioff said in a follow-up statement. "We need solutions that empower our communities, not federal intervention that divides them." Pelosi and the politics of defiance. For Nancy Pelosi, whose decades-long career has been defined by her fierce advocacy for San Francisco, the president's remarks hit a familiar nerve. In a statement released Friday, the former House Speaker accused Trump of manufacturing chaos for political gain. "San Francisco does not want or need Donald Trump's chaos," she said. "Our city takes great pride in the steps we've taken to significantly increase public safety and reduce crime in partnership with community and state officials, without the interference of a president seeking headlines." Pelosi's criticism echoed a broader sentiment among California Democrats, that Trump's proposed troop deployment is less about law enforcement than about optics. With the 2026 midterms looming and political polarization deepening, Trump's rhetoric about saving cities like San Francisco or Chicago has become a core message in his appeal to suburban and rural voters frustrated with liberal governance. A familiar playbook. To many observers, Trump's San Francisco comments fit squarely into a pattern that dates back to his first term. In 2020, during the protests following George Floyd's killing, he threatened to send federal agents into cities like Portland and Seattle, an action that led to violent clashes and allegations of abuse of power. He also repeatedly attacked Democratic mayors for failing to protect their citizens, even as crime rates fluctuated for complex and often local reasons. "This is part of a long-standing narrative," said Dr. Carla Rosen, a political science professor at Stanford University who studies urban policy. By invoking San Francisco, Trump isn't just talking about crime, he's talking about a symbol. For his base, San Francisco represents everything they believe is wrong with progressive governance, permissiveness, homelessness, liberal elites. Sending troops there would be a political statement as much as a policy decision. Legal and logistical questions. Even if Trump were to proceed with his plan, significant legal and logistical hurdles remain. Under normal circumstances, the deployment of the National Guard falls under the authority of a state's governor. To bypass that, Trump would likely need to invoke the Insurrection Act, a controversial step last used in 1992 during the Los Angeles riots. Such a move could spark a constitutional showdown between federal and state governments, with California officials almost certain to challenge it in court. "The Insurrection Act is not a tool for political messaging," said former Justice Department official Paul Rosenzweig. "If used inappropriately, it risks eroding the foundational balance between state and federal power." The broader narrative. Trump's renewed focus on San Francisco also plays into his broader campaign messaging ahead of the 2026 election cycle. On the campaign trail, he has repeatedly painted American cities as decaying under Democrat rule, invoking images of homelessness, drug addiction, and urban decline. In rally speeches, he often contrasts these depictions with his promise of a return to safety, order, and prosperity. Yet in San Francisco itself, many residents see Trump's comments as not only exaggerated but dangerously misleading. Does the city have problems? "Of course," said Jennifer Chong, a small business owner in Chinatown. "But to say we need troops? That's not leadership, that's theater." Community organizers argue that federal intervention would undermine years of local progress in tackling complex social issues like addiction and housing. "You don't solve homelessness with Humvees," said Malik Johnson, a housing advocate in the Tenderloin district. "You solve it with compassion, resources, and political will." A city under the microscope. For decades, San Francisco has been both admired and criticized for its progressive experimentation, a place where bold social policies are tested, and sometimes fail, under the watchful eye of the nation. The city's struggles with housing affordability, homelessness, and drug use have made it a frequent target of conservative media outlets, which often amplify isolated incidents as proof of systemic failure. Trump's latest comments, amplified across social media and conservative news platforms, have once again placed the city at the center of a polarized national conversation, one that often overlooks the complexity of its challenges in favor of easy political narratives. "Every time Trump mentions San Francisco, our phones blow up," said Ana Perez, a city communications official. People outside California think the city is collapsing. But those of us who live here see something very different. A city that's fighting, changing, and refusing to give up. What comes next? For now, it remains unclear whether Trump's remarks will translate into concrete action. Administration officials offered no timeline or logistical details, and the Pentagon has declined to comment. Some analysts suggest the threat alone may be the point, a way to dominate headlines and reinforce a political contrast. Still, city and state leaders are preparing for every possibility. Behind closed doors, aides to Governor Newsom and Mayor Lurie have reportedly discussed legal options and coordination strategies should the president attempt to assert federal control over the city's security operations.